Hello everyone, welcome to this incredibly important video. You guys probably don't understand how important this step is because what I'm going to teach you today is probably the number one thing that separates successful writers in the long term from unsuccessful writers. And it's essentially creating a steady writing habit. And in this video, we're going to walk through how to do that and what to do, because a lot of people have very bad ideas of what writing should look like. Ideas that if you continue with that mindset, you are not going to succeed as a writer. So let's dive in and get into this presentation. All right, so this is just a very quick presentation that I put together about how writing habits equals success. And I want to start with this quote that I absolutely love. It's attributed to Peter DeVries, but I really like, if you look this up, he's definitely not the first person to have said it. Lots of other people have said it, but there's kind of some confusion about who said it first. But this particular quote is attributed to him, this iteration of it, where he said, "I only write when I'm inspired, and I see to it that I'm inspired at 9 o'clock every morning." And I just love that because a lot of authors had this really erroneous idea that they can only write when the muse strikes. Right? And that is completely untrue. Getting creative is a habit that can be trained and can be learned and can be improved. It's not something that it just comes. I mean, sometimes it does. Sometimes you're in the shower and you get this like lightning bolt of inspiration and you need to go get out of the shower, write it down somewhere. That, those things happen, of course. But you can also train yourself to get into that flow state at any time. But you're not going to do it unless you start setting some significant habits. So people often get into writing just in their free time. And I get this, like if you've got a day job, if you've got, maybe you're a mother with kids and you've got all this stuff, you don't have a lot of time. And so it's just, writing a book just becomes this thing that you do in your free time or on the side when you get around to it, right? And that's fine if that works for you. If it's just a little bit of a hobby, a creative outlet, like you can just stick with that and that'll be fine. But if you want to succeed as an author, meaning like financially or critically, whatever your definition of success is, you're going to need to start thinking about writing and your author business a little bit differently. First of all, you need to take your work seriously. This is not just something that you get around to when you can. This is something that you need to spend a lot of time on. And second, you need to work on mastering your craft, right? Nobody comes out of the gate writing well. Nobody is born as an expert writer. All of the best writers out there were once horrible at it. And that's going to be the case for you too. The first stuff that you write is not going to be the best stuff. So that means that you need to spend regular amounts of time, get the hours and the reps in, so that you eventually improve as a writer. The best way to do that is through actual writing, but there's also learning that needs to happen. There is practice, there is feedback from an editor, all sorts of different ways that you can improve your craft. But this is ultimately going to be the most important reason why you need to set a habit, is to improve your own craft as a writer. Because if you don't do that, then your writing is just gonna suck. And even if you're using AI to help you, AI in the hands of a skilled writer is always going to be better than AI in the hands of a non-skilled writer. That's just how it works. So you have to put in some effort and some reps. You also need to focus on learning new skills because in this day and age, you need to be more than just a good writer to succeed as a writer. And that's an unfortunate reality that we live in right now. Even if you got traditionally published by Random House or whoever, they don't do a lot of the work that they used to. And they kind of expect you to do a lot of marketing and they often pick authors who already have large followings. So if you want to succeed as an author, you are likely going to have to develop some new skills like marketing, like learning what branding is, your book cover, your book description, making sure those things match the genres and all of that, genre research. There's all kinds of things that an author needs to learn. And this is actually why in my group, I kind of have this laid out in a sort of steady breadcrumbs path to not just learning how to write with AI ethically in a way that doesn't interfere with your creativity, But we go through some of the basics of marketing and getting it started and all of that. And so if you're interested in that, go check out the link down below. But unfortunately, there is no one size fits all when it comes to writing habits that I can prescribe for everyone. That's just not the way it works. But there are a few, I would call them keystone habits, that you do probably want to focus on, and I'll give you some ways of adapting those as you need to. So the first is just marking a regular time on your calendar to write. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are marking down a specific time and have specific goals in mind for what you're going to accomplish in that time. Because I know for myself, I have had many instances where I've sat down at the time appointed and I just sort of like spend too much time figuring out what I want to do. Instead, you should probably have a specific goal, like writing one chapter or writing 1,000 words or whatever your goal may be. And having that as a regular goal each day, ideally, each time you sit down to write. But you might also have specific goals for specific days. This also, I'm not one of those people that says you need to write every single day, because I don't think that is necessarily possible for a lot of beginner writers, and it can be more discouraging than it is helpful. But I do think that your time that you schedule in your calendar for writing should be regular. I have a favorite author named Jeff Wheeler, and I read his memoir about before he was a successful full-time writer, he would just have like a 3-hour block on Wednesday that was his writing time. And he was very consistent with that 3-hour block just on Wednesday. Unfortunately, he had a really demanding job, and he was involved in his church and with his family and everything. So that was the only time he could carve out. If that's all you can do that, right? Find a time weekly, maybe on weekends, maybe on a Wednesday, whenever works for you, and just stick to it. The most important thing that you can do is stick to it. 2, you're going to need to set some time aside for things other than writing. You'll probably want to set some time around for reading a book or taking a course or something like that. So we're going beyond writing. And also, like, if you finished a book, you also want to put some time aside to market that book and everything effectively. Otherwise, you're going to lose track of what needs to be done, because there's always a balance between writing more, but also promoting what you have and all of that. So all of that needs to be set aside if you want to be successful and treat your author business like a business, right? The third tip I have here is to find a good setting. And this can vary wildly depending on the different person. Some people need complete silence, in which case you might want to be getting up super early if you have like kids or people that might bother you. So I know people that get up at 4 a.m. to do their writing, which to me is kind of like crazy, because for me to get up at 4 a.m., I need to go to bed at like 7 to get enough sleep, because that's just sleep is a huge priority for me. But if you're one of those people that really needs everything silent and still, getting up that early might be helpful for you. Or alternatively, waiting until everybody's gone to sleep. It really depends on the person. Some people like music, or they might like going to a coffee shop. I actually find that the coffee shop can be a good thing if you don't mind the distractions around you, because it can be helpful to actually have a separate place to go where like what you do is right. And that's like your time for it. It's like going to an office, except it's going to a coffee shop, right? And the music, if you like music can be really helpful as well for some people, for others less so. I find it's really helpful for myself because I'm like mildly ADHD. And so having music kind of occupies a little bit of that busy part of my brain so that I can actually focus better. It's kind of weird how that works. Anyway, step 4 is to just do it. Right? I don't really have to say anything more about that. You need to actually stick to the schedule and the setting that you've outlined for yourself. And you may find that not everything works perfectly, and you can adjust the schedule and everything. That's all fine. But the important thing with all this is we can't just be stuck in a planning phase. We actually have to take action. And so that is the 4th step. And that's really all I have to share with you today. This is a really important topic, and so that's why I wanted to cover it in a dedicated video. I know some people are not going to be taking this seriously, But if you want to learn more about the writing process and everything that goes into it, as well as how to write books with AI without sacrificing your creativity, go ahead and check out my link to the Story Hacker Gold program down below, and I will hopefully see you there.